Good morning and welcome to the show, and thanks for waking up with us today. It's Monday, so you know what that means. It's Medical Monday, and we've got Dr. Roman Nation from Nation's Best Family Healthcare here in the studio. You've got a practice up here in Lynn Haven and
Yes,
also
sir.
out on Panama City Beach now. That's great stuff. And you offer so much there. Because I recently met with your dietitian, by the way, JT. Yeah.
Yep.
And he's a great guy and all, but after talking with him, I really felt like I was doing a lot of stuff wrong.
It's quite interesting because he started with us about a year and a half ago, and we had some really great success stories for the first 6 to 8 months, and some people have really stuck with it and continued their weight loss. We've had at least a dozen now that have lost greater than 80 pounds.
Wow.
People that really just change their lifestyle, and we don't do it with dietary pills and those kinds of things. It's a matter of managing dietary stuff, exercise stuff, and then some hormone stuff that plays a big strong role in that too.
And it's kind of a lifestyle change, and just kind of dovetailing into that, we had Bill Kundo on the show as well, who is a clinical counselor, I guess.
Yeah, he's a mental health counselor.
Mental health counselor.
Yeah. And what's interesting though is that because now we're a year later and we're starting to see the patients back that did really well, they decided that I really for family pressures or whatever that it was too hard to start paying attention to it again, and so then all of a sudden their diabetes got worse, their weight got worse, and their depression got worse. And so we're back seeing them again, saying, okay, well, are we going to get back to this or what? And then we're having to restart that whole cycle all over again.
Now, your family practice, you're not really a weight loss clinic,
Nope.
but it is a no-kidding health problem in America today.
Oh, yes.
Obesity, diabesity, I've heard that little phrase thrown around. Yeah, which I guess is not a medical term, but it's,
And what we were talking about before the show is that the Asian population is actually more at risk of becoming diabetic even though they're not overweight.
Wow.
So there's been some changes in the guidelines for that, for screening for diabetes.
So obesity is not necessarily the prime indicator of diabetes.
No, not even close. We have lots of folks that are extremely overweight but not diabetic. You know that train's coming, so it hits them eventually, and we can pick those traits up a lot faster than what conventional medicine does. The way that I was initially trained was you wait until the train's at the station and now you're a diabetic, and ahead of that you're like, well, you might have a problem somewhere down the road, but we don't know when that's going to be. So now the studies have finally come out, and the U.S. Preventive Task Force has changed its position to say...
The U.S. Preventive Task Force?
Yeah, USPTF. They're the ones that make all these guidelines that say you should do this, you shouldn't do that. And it's this big body that's run by the government, that talks about preventive stuff versus, testing that should be done versus testing that doesn't do any good. And they finally changed their position on screening for diabetes. And now they're an advocate for screening for prediabetes.
Wow.
For patients, which is what we've been doing for years, and that's why we're particularly good at it.
Yeah, so I guess weight loss is kind of a, there are a lot of businesses and a lot of people making money off of weight loss.
They do, and the majority of the ones that we've seen, it's like you walk in, you get a script, and you get an appetite suppressant, which will make you consume less calories, but it doesn't change your inner metabolism. And it doesn't change the inner workings inside your hormone system, and it doesn't change the stuff inside your gut. It just makes you eat less.
And the most important organ of all, the one between your ears, that you sometimes have to really come to grips with to lose weight.
I think I had that conversation at least 7 times yesterday with patients
really?
that they're not watching their diet, and because it's hard. And I say, well, if you don't like your brain very much, then keep doing what you're doing, because obesity and diabetes is one of the hugest contributors to dementia and Alzheimer's.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my! So just another reason to stay trim.
Yeah, exactly. So if you keep doing what you're doing, you're not going to remember that you did it.
Maybe I'll just forget I'm fat. Yeah. And on that note, I'll get to run off to local weather.
Sir.
But on the other side of that, let's talk more about weight loss and healthy living, and how people can get healthy by coming by and seeing you and your staff out there at Nation's Best Family Healthcare. We'll be right back with Dr. Roman Nation. Welcome back to the show. I'm chatting here with Dr. Roman Nation from Nation's Best Family Healthcare in Lynn Haven and out on Panama City Beach. Dr. Nation, we always have the best interviews during the breaks, the freewheeling stream of consciousness medical consultation I get from you every week.
We do.
We were talking about weight.
We do, and one of the other things that we were talking about in between is the tie-in of mental health when it comes to obesity and healthy lifestyles. I mean, we have a lot of folks that come in that have done very, very well in terms of losing weight, and others that actually put their own blocks in their way. They say that they think they're following the diet, when they're not. And it's because it's this background information that they think, well, I got to have this, otherwise I don't feel like I'm me anymore. And I can't tell you how many people have come in, and some of them are finally starting to realize that that good Southern background of cornbread, sweet tea, and fried chicken is a path to an early grave, and dementia, and lots of other things, you know. And they're finally starting to catch up on that, you know what, this probably isn't the smartest thing for me to do, even though this is what I grew up with. So we do some other stuff for folks that are having those image type issues to try and help them get through that.
Yeah, and we tend to eat more of those foods that we're comfortable with anyway, and I think we tend to eat more of those foods nowadays than maybe we did 100 years ago.
I think there's a difference also with the lifestyle that we've got too. I mean, how many people are sitting at a desk nowadays staring at a computer versus up, you know,
out in the
moving
fields
around.
at sunrise.
I mean, even administrative positions that they used to have, you know, with secretaries and stuff, you used to have to walk back and forth, you know, and then we got to the phones where you just called back and forth, and now you just text back and forth. So you have less and less and less movement each day. And so we put a really big emphasis on that, is that even the most oldest patients that we got that can barely just stand up, there's activity that you can do that will help increase your metabolism, that will help you lose weight, and it also helps with your brain circulation. So if we're trying to get your memory back and improve those things all contribute to that.
There's a whole psychological dimension to this thing too.
Absolutely.
And I could see if you're overweight, people tend to get depressed.
Yes,
you know?
they do.
And when they're depressed, they maybe eat some more, and it just becomes this vicious cycle.
Right. Yeah,
and you've got to break that.
We talk about that a lot, and then we kind of unravel it with some counseling on a number of areas. You know, there's things that we do on the medicine and hormone side of stuff, but then there's dietary stuff, there's exercise stuff, and then there's mental health stuff. We've had patients that lose, you know, greater than 100 pounds, and they still think they're fat. You know, and it's not an obsession at that point of like, you see some people that just get obsessed with weight loss. It is really a mental, you know, kind of block that they've put in place that got them there to begin with, and getting to the bottom of that and dealing with that is decently painful work, but it's very, very worthwhile. I mean, it will change your life once you get to that point.
Yeah, so that whole mind-body thing is very real.
Absolutely.
And you may have maybe a bad body image, and no matter how much weight you lose, you may never be thin enough.
Right, yeah, how much weight you lose or gain. Yeah. And that's one of the unique things I love about our practice, is that we're the only ones that I can think of in town or anywhere nearby that do that all together in one setting. Where there's a team that kind of circles together and you know, builds a plan on how to fix
so rather than just getting a diet, you know, or just seeing the doctor, or just seeing a counselor,
just refilling your medicines.
You've got it all, and you guys are all talking and keeping
on how we get the person.
So it's really one-stop shopping for healthy living right there.
Yes, sir.
Right there at Lynn Haven at Nation's Best Family Healthcare, and also out there at the on Panama City Beach now. So there's really no excuse not to come and see you, whether you're on the beach or in town.
That's right. Yeah, we can't you know, cross the bridge anymore.
Yeah.
So, but there's you know, I think you've seen Mr. Kundo on the show a couple of times. So he's really starting to make a big difference for folks that have hit that block, and we're making some good breakthroughs for them.
That's amazing stuff. Thank you again for coming on the show, and give my best to the staff out there at Nation's Best. They're doing great work, and I look forward to having more of your staff on the show to learn more about what you do out there.
Thank you, sir.
And we'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Dr. Aaron Shores from Spine and Neural Pain Specialists here in Panama City and up in Chipley. And welcome back to the show, Dr. Shores. Thank you so much for coming back on. You know, last week we talked about pinched nerves in the lower back and the herniated disc, this horrible looking thing over here, that herniated disc that caused the pinched nerve. And when you think of a pinched nerve, you always think of like a lower back from lifting things. But can you get a pinched nerve, like say in your neck or in your upper back area?
Yeah, you certainly can. And the neck is another common area for folks to get a pinched nerve. And when they occur in the neck, it's a very similar mechanism as in the low back. That just when nerve is pinched in the neck, then sometimes folks will feel pain or numbness into the arm, or even down into the hand or the fingers, and sometimes a weakness in the upper extremity.
How does one go about pinching a nerve in your neck? Now, lower back, I understand lifting and things like that, but in your neck, that's quite a feat.
Well, sometimes you don't always know why they happen. They just, like the bumper sticker says, sometimes stuff happens, but there's not always a reason. Sometimes there can be narrowing from arthritis. There are some ligaments that run inside the spinal canal that can also thicken and enlarge, which can also pinch a nerve. And then in traumatic events, sometimes you can develop instability where one bone slides forward on the other and narrows the space where the nerve comes out. So there are several different causes that can precipitate a pinched nerve.
So, and we talk about trauma, the first thing that comes to my mind is a car wreck, perhaps. I knew, just anecdotally, a fighter pilot in the Air Force who was sitting in the back seat. He was a backseater, and being a good backseater, he's looking around, and they went through another plane's jet wash. And as he's looking, they hit this big bump, and he just threw his neck out and pinched the nerve in his neck that way. So just being in the wrong position and getting a big jar in that instance could probably screw you up pretty well. That's a medical term,
Screw you up is a technical term. No, absolutely. And traumatic events like that, whether they occur in the aircraft or in an automobile, are certainly a cause for disc herniations in the neck as well. So those are when those occur, they're managed similarly to those in the low back, depending on the severity of the symptoms. If there's not any progressive deficits or other issues that might suggest a more immediate need for intervention, they can sometimes be managed conservatively with behavioral modification, physical therapy, anti-inflammatories. If those don't work, then sometimes injections like epidural steroid injections can be used to treat them. And then if things continue to progress, then surgery can certainly be an option as well. Now the neck is a little bit different than the low back in the sense that the spinal cord is more of an issue in the neck than it is in the low back.
Sure.
So if
it just looks more exposed. I mean, just from my uneducated eye, it just looks like there's not as much protection of your spinal cord here as there is perhaps mid-back or lower back.
Correct. And in adults, usually the spinal cord actually ends somewhere around the upper back level, and then the nerves continue down. In the neck, the spinal cord is a definite issue that has to be concerned. So if the spinal cord is getting pinched, or there's evidence of swelling within the cord or compromise to the cord, that would be an indication for more immediate need for surgery in some instances.
If I'm understanding you right, and I'm actually learning something here,
Okay.
I learn something every time, of course, your spinal cord kind of tapers off somewhere in your mid-back?
Well, in adults, the spinal cord usually goes from the brain to around the L1
and where's
level,
that?
the upper lumbar, which is, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So usually right around in here, the spinal cord stops, usually around T12, L1 in most adults. And then from the L1 level, the spinal cord puts off nerves that run down to the lower part of the back and down the leg, which that part of the spinal cord is called the cauda equina. But the spinal cord itself in adults actually stops up around the L1 level. So in the cervical spine, the cord is definitely an issue that needs to be paid attention to.
Yeah, it's a big thick cable of whatever.
And it is you do have a little less clearance up there and less room for error in the neck than you maybe would have in the lumbar spine. So it's certainly, the cord is something that needs to be always evaluated, and is something that everybody thinks about. One of the reasons after an auto accident, even minor accidents, that the neck is usually immediately immobilized on the scene, even if it seems like a minor fender bender, because you never know until you take some pictures.
Dr. Aaron Shores, this is fascinating stuff. Thanks so much for coming on in and explaining all that to us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And we'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. I'm here with my friend Daryl Day, never a stranger to controversy, and a guy who has an opinion, much like most of us do.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show,
Thanks,
Daryl.
Don.
And thanks for coming on.
Yeah, anytime.
There's been some ordinances passed regarding beach use and drinking on the beach.
Panama City Beach.
In Panama City Beach, and I know we've talked about spring break a little bit, and I've actually called in to your radio show on Talk Radio 101.
Well, it's certainly a tradition. I mean, I was born and raised on Panama City Beach, and I've seen a lot of spring breaks, and it was getting out of hand. There's no question about it.
What are your listeners saying about it?
Well, it kind of divided halfway between a lot of my listeners are residents out there, and they're
fed up.
They're fed up.
Yeah.
They can't get home. The noise, the helicopters with the searchlights.
And then with the crime, we've got
crime
7 people
picks
shot.
up, and then
terrible
there's a
things
lot of
going on.
folks who depend on it. There's a lot of businesses, a lot of employees who depend on that time for that extra part of the year. And so, there's two sides to the issue. I think everybody can agree that it has grown bigger than what we want it to be in as far as not business, but rowdy crowds.
When I moved down here in 1997, the wife and I, we had the boys in the back of the minivan. We're like, let's take a drive down Front Beach Road and see what spring break is all about. And it really was truly collegiate spring break. There were a bunch of college kids walking around, mostly from northern schools, having some fun. But here we are, years later, it has turned into something unrecognizable.
Yeah, it's not Tommy Sands and Annette Funicello anymore. And I don't mean it has morphed into something that is more of a party, a national party of people who tend to be a bit on the lawless side. And I call them thugs because that is a grammatically correct word to use, and I refuse to stop using it because some people, that bothers some people.
But you know, the thing is, Panama City's got this reputation now. It's like, you know, anything goes at the beach, you know, and they're going to have that freaknik, we're going to take over and that type of thing. And that's kind of a mentality, and I think that's a branding when you talk about it, that we could really do without.
Well, yeah, and my concern is that we've been branded that way because we didn't choose our own brand. I think, of course, now the cows are out of the barn now, and it's hard to shut the door at that time. But we're just going to have to see what happens next year with the press that we've had this year, the bad press that we've gotten, the shooting, the assault, the rape, whatever it was on the beach. I don't know how that's going to play out next year.
Yeah, the genie's out of the bottle. What do we do to
out of the bottle,
reel us back in?
And now with the banning of alcohol during the month of March, I'm just going to have to see. And
banning of alcohol on the sandy beaches.
On the sandy beaches, that's correct. And next year, when we compile all the data, well, what do we point to the cause of the cessation of the rowdiness? Was it the ban? Was it the bad press?
We got to see what works.
We've got to see what works.
And we got to look at other places and see what works in other places too that may have gone through similar experiences.
And well, even when we do that, we seem to get two answers to that. How do you like it now that spring break is gone? Well, some say, well, it's the best thing that ever happened. We've moved on and we've brought other industries, families
things,
in.
You know?
And then there's others that say, oh, you know, it's just never been the same. We're about to find out.
Bay County and Panama City has truly been blessed with some really beautiful natural resources and scenery and
undeniably
beaches.
So.
And you know, for us to, I don't know, just kind of bang it out commercially just seems kind of crude to me.
Well, I wish that we could have met with the business and the residents, could have come to a bit better compromise, but there were some obstacles that one couldn't cross over to the other, and I understand that. We're just going to have to wait and see. But it's like I say on my show, when you're 3 miles deep in the swamp and you realize you're lost, it's 3 miles out. It's not good. We're not going to fix this in 1 year.
It's going to take
I would like
time.
to see a toning down of spring break. Keep spring break, but bring it back within order. And I think everybody could agree that might be the best approach. We may have to really, really pound on it a year or two to bring it back to within a scope that we can handle, and I would like to see that.
I would love to see more families. I would like to see more family friendly.
I would too.
I miss the Ocean Opry, you know, all that stuff. That type of stuff.
Well, I miss I Love Lucy too, Don, but I don't know that we're going to be able to get back there.
I miss my hair.
Yeah, I miss my hair. I miss a lot of things.
Daryl Day, thanks for coming on the show. Always a good time.
Anytime, Don.
Always good to see you, my friend. And listen to Daryl Day on Talk Radio 101, Monday through Friday at 6 to 9 a.m. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the show, guys. It's Randy, your Waking Up with Don trainer. Today I'm going to show you some static exercises that you can do from just about anywhere. A lot of people say they don't have enough time or space to exercise, so I'm going to show you some things that you can do from wherever you are. So the first exercise is going to be the static squat. I'm showing you guys how to do the squat again, but I'll give you a quick instruction so that you can keep up, and you can do these right here with me if you want. So starting with your feet shoulder width apart, your hips, knees, and toes in alignment. It's going to go down, and for the static squat, we'll hold the down position, okay? Then we come back up, and that's one. We're going to do 5 of these, and we're going to do 5 lateral raises the same way. So 1 down, 4 to go. Down. Should be starting to burn a little bit right now, just like it is for me. So you get the idea. Up, 2, down. Up, and 3, down. Up, 4, down. As you come down, make sure that you keep your chest up nice and tall. You don't want to lean over or make it bad for your spine. And up, last one. Lateral raise is just like it sounds. You're going to bring your arms up with a slight bend in your elbow and raise it up and just hold it. Down is 1. First couple are easy, but by the time we get to 5, you'll see why it's tough. Up, If you want, while you're in this position, you can raise your hands up, or you can pulse a little bit to add some intensity. Down, up, down. Let's pulse on this next one. Up, and just give me a slight movement here, up and down, just like that. Got one more, folks. Down, up one more time. Raise your hands. Hold it, doing good, and down. That goes to show you that doing a couple of rounds of that, or maybe even as many as you can help you get your exercise done anywhere. That's all I got for you guys this week. If you want to get in contact with me, you can reach me at www.5lfitness.com. And we're also at Tyndall Air Force Base and Impact Fitness here in Panama City. Thank you.